with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want to get you fired up about the better life. That's right, not just the good life, but the better life. My guest today is author Ankit, and we're talking about his book, Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life. I know, I love the title of that book. Now go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee, or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Ankit. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Angela, for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm so glad that you are here, and with everything going on in the world right now, as I'm telling each and every one of my guests, it is a pleasure to hear your voice because I know that you are well. So thank you so much for being on today. Now, before we start talking about your book, and definitely I want to do that, I'd like to ask my guests, who are you? What makes you you? You can tell us about education and all that good stuff as well, but we want to know what makes you tick.
I guess there's a lot of things. I like to be a versatile person. I was born in India, but I came to the States when I was really young, a year old, and I guess the main things my parents taught me were get a good education, work hard, and have good morals. That's something they always taught me, and just throughout the years I've learned a lot from other mentors, and I don't know, I guess the best way to describe me is I just like to be a friendly person. I like to get along with people, anybody, whoever they are, and just live the best life I possibly can. If I can help a lot of people in the process, then that's a great thing. And as far as career-wise goes, I work as a dialysis nurse, which I've been doing for about 12 years.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. You really said two important things, and let me address the latter first. There are so many people on dialysis, and the care that you have to have for people during that time when they are in such a vulnerable state. Thank you so much for taking care of them. I personally know some people that have received dialysis, and they rave about their nurses that are really good to them. So thank you for taking the time to do that. On the flip side, talking about your parents, we have these conversations so many times about how people are different, but I find that when you really kind of drill down to the common denominator, we are so much more alike. And for my listeners, they've heard me say this before. The fact that your parents are like, be moral, have good ethics, be an upstanding citizen. I think that that's something that most people will say, yeah, I think my parents told me to be that too. But yet we may be of a different culture. I love how that makes us so interconnected, and we find out that we are truly so much more alike than we're unalike. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, is nursing something that you've always wanted to do?
I think I decided kind of towards the end of high school, maybe mid to late high school. It was just medicine was something I was looking at getting into, or just the healthcare field, and nursing just seemed like a good option just because, I don't know, and I'm not putting down any other profession. I mean, we're all very essential, but, it just seemed like there was more patient care involved versus going to medical school. And, there's other options I thought about, but I just kind of kept on the nursing track.
No, I can definitely understand. My mom is retired, but she was a nurse. So there is a calling to a particular field when you're in medicine. You're so true about that. And I think for her too, it was the patient care. She did more pediatric. So I think being able to care for the little ones. So I can understand that. Now, being an author, is that something that you were interested in at a young age, or did you find that it was the next logical step for your moment in life right now?
That's funny. Actually, truthfully, it is something I thought of as a little kid, because as a kid, I used to, and I don't even remember how I got interested in it, but I would write poems when I was a kid, and I enjoyed them, and they were pretty good, I thought, at least for whatever a kid could produce. And that's stuff that I thought about for a few years, but then I kind of got on a different life course. I thought about how getting careers that would actually be create something that I could live off of. I mean, at that time you couldn't really live off being a writer, so I just looked at other paths, and then it's like you kind of, life gets in the way. You have to figure out how you're going to actually live and create an income when you're older, and that's what I did. And I love nursing, but that was one of the paths I chose. And then, but in the back of my mind, I always had an inkling for being an author. And when I felt like it was the right time, when I felt like I had a great idea to write about, I ultimately did. And I was listening to this one motivational speaker on YouTube, and he basically said, the best way to get your ideas out there is to write them down in a book and self-publish it, because that's the quickest way to get it out there. So I did just that. I compiled all of my ideas just from life experience, work, personal experience, mentors, and the like, and I just compiled everything into a book, and then I self-published it because I didn't really know any publishers at the time, and I created my first book, the Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life, and that's kind of how it all came about. And eventually, a few years later, I was able to find a publisher, and that inspired me to keep writing. So I've written several other books since then, and in the meantime, I've also created a separate little career as a writer, as a freelance writer. So nothing big yet, but working on it.
It's really funny how, depending on what's going on in our world, we do have these like epiphany moments that it's like, right now is the best time. I'm going to do it now, and you're just kind of fueled to get it done. I love that. Now, what's the title? Did you find that the title came to you first, and you wrote the book around the title, or did the title kind of develop out of your writing?
For this particular book, I believe I thought of the title first. There's been other books I've written where I had the title in mind. Sometimes maybe I readjusted it or thought of a new one halfway through, but I usually, in most cases, I have the title in mind beforehand.
Now, what? How do I want to say? How do you utilize your book? Like, how have you found that you have been able to either share the book or to enlighten people with your book? How do you utilize it?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of sharing on social media, and then I also blog pretty regularly. Plus, I, in the past, I haven't gotten a chance to do too many recently, but did a lot of author events, book events, small seminars, small speaking engagements, and plus I actually do a podcast every other week, kind of centered around my book, the Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life, and the name of the podcast is Live Better Daily, which I do every other Tuesday, or actually every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. So that's a lot of fun.
I liked how you said that, you not only do the seminars and webinars, but you do the motivational speaking, and it sounds like you're really active and you're getting out there and you're really and truly trying to help inspire people and motivate them to not only live a good life, but to live a better life, and I love that. Now, for someone who says, I'm happy with my good life. I don't want it any better. Or for the person who says, there's a better life, oh my goodness. What more could I possibly want? When you're talking about a good life versus a better life, can you give us an idea of what each one of those looks like?
Sure. I mean, it's nothing, and when I suggest, a better life, it doesn't mean that you should not be happy with your current situation. You should be. But what I mean by the better life is that you're always looking for ways to improve. You're always looking for ways to, move forward in life in some way, shape, or form. It can be career, it can be your personal life, relationships, health. All of us can look at our lives and say, things are good, but I could improve in this way or that way. So saying that you want a better life essentially means that you're living limitlessly, meaning that you can always improve day to day. Living the good life, the connotation of good kind of has a limit to it, and that's kind of the premise of my book and kind of the main point I wanted to bring across. Like, hey, if I say or you say that, hey, I want a good life, okay, well, my life is good now, then what? Do I stop? Do I stop living? Do I stop improving? Do I stop learning? Do I stop doing things that may better me? But when I say, hey, I want a better life, that denotes, limitlessness. And I'm always saying, hey, in some way, shape, or form, I want to make my life better, whatever that may be. And, I live it every day. There's many times I find myself on a daily basis just going, man, this is going wrong and that's going wrong. I really have to kick myself in the head and go, hey, think about all the things that are going right, or think about how much potential or how many possibilities you have in life right now. So
I really like that explanation, that the good is limited but the better is limitless. I love
exactly.
that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that so many times we are conditioned or trained, taught to limit ourselves according to the person doing the teaching. If your parents had to live a limited life, or if your grandparents lived a limited life, that they kind of teach that to you by default because they haven't been taught how to think about a limitless life, about living beyond or having that better as opposed to just that good. What a wonderful reminder that we can be limitless in what we do and in our dreams. I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a really good point. And I think, and I mean, if you think about it, we all subconsciously at least are trying to live a better life because, hey, we're wondering, hey, what kind of career can we have? How can we move up in life? How can we, if we have health issues, can we improve? How can we assure that we're going to, be around tomorrow? How can we improve our relationships? Things like that. We're all, in a way, looking for ways to improve our life in some way, and we just may not have thought about it in the way of, hey, living the better life.
I love it. Well, Ankit, it is almost time for us to go to break, but before we do, I want to make sure that everyone is reminded. Could you please tell them what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Sure, absolutely. My book is called Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life. It's available. The best place to get it is Amazon.com. And then you can also get it from, this particular book was self-published, so you can get it from xlibris.com, xlibris.com. And you can also check out my author website at alpinelinepublishers.com and just look up my name, Ankit Skukla, and you'll be able to find some of my books there too.
Radio listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Discovery, not just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer? Get us to open up, even push us further? could if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for our Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Tester. My guest today is Ankit, and we are talking about his book, Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life. I know. I love the title of the book. That is amazing. And I love that Ankit was saying before we went to break that most people probably are trying to live the better life because we're always looking for ways that we can improve ourselves. And I think that is so true. Now, my next question for you, Ankit, is this. People always want to know, what can I gain for your book? If I'm going to purchase it, I want to make sure that I'm going to learn some type of lesson. What will the purchaser of your book learn from your book? How will they be enlightened?
Pretty much the best way is, knowing that they can always live the better life, knowing that no matter what situation they are in, whether they are enjoying their current situation or not enjoying their current situation, they can in some way, shape, or form improve and get better. Let's say if someone's maybe reached the pinnacle of their career, whatever that may be, okay, but assess your relationships, your home life, your health. Are you getting enough exercise? Are you, in a lot of cases, people that focus on their career aren't getting enough sleep, they're not eating well, they're not exercising, so that's an area that you need to focus on a little bit more. Maybe your relationships are suffering. Is that an area you need to focus on a little bit more? So I think people going in need to realize that, hey, I'm not in any way suggesting that you should not be happy with your current life or situation, but I am suggesting that, hey, in some way, shape, or form, you can improve and get better and essentially just always live the better life.
I love that. Now, do you think that with you being a nurse, do you think that your education and your training has helped you write your book in any way, that's helped you with perhaps the way you present it or some of the phrasing that you may even have included in your book?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually think it does. And I think a lot of it maybe just through my philosophy, because I think I did get a lot of my philosophy just from my career, and I probably come off a little bit more compassionate in my writing because of it. But also what I've seen, what I've experienced, and how I've seen that some people are simply trying to fight for their lives, and it really puts a lot of things in perspective, like, hey, what do I really have to complain about? I'm not suggesting people's problems are not real, but really when you have that type of perspective of, hey, someone doesn't know, they just get a diagnosis of a major illness and they have no idea how they're going to deal with it financially, socially, health-wise, or anything else. It just kind of puts a lot of things in perspective. And that's why I think I just have the mindset of always every day doing something to improve yourself, because you could be in a situation where, you just may not have the capability of doing that at that moment. And so I think in that respect, my career has really shaped my philosophy. And, I think definitely, and I certainly use a lot of experiences from my nursing field in my actual writing, which will definitely become apparent as you read it. But yeah, I think a lot of my writing is connected to to the field I'm in, for sure.
Now, do you think that you will write any other books in the future? Do you think this is you're done, or do you think that there's something else you'd like to share?
Oh, I'm definitely not done, and actually I've written several books since then. And I talked about back in 2017, because I was doing a book event for my particular book, that Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life. And through that event, I actually met a gentleman who was a publisher, and we kind of clicked. He liked my book, and we kept in touch. And eventually, when I was working on my second book, which is actually related to my travel nursing career, I reached out to him and asked him, hey, is it possible to get published with you? And he said, yeah, send us your manuscript when it's almost done and we'll take a look at it. And I did. And, they liked my writing. They liked what I was about, and they accepted me as an author. So as of 2017, I became a published author with an actual publishing company, not just self-publishing, which, as I'm not downplaying self-publishing, it's a major opportunity to get your work out there too. And they both have their pros and cons, I think, traditional publishing versus self-publishing. But yeah, so ever since then, I got inspired to keep writing, and I've written several other books since then. I've written, a couple of books on nursing and healthcare. I recently put out a children's book last year, and I've got several other books coming out in the future, and even maybe one or two that are related to the current situation that's going on in the world. Because I'm seeing a lot of things firsthand as a nurse of what's going on right now. It's pretty insane, but keeping moving. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love how you say that you have to keep it moving.
Mhm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing that that as plus I think as we age and mature, we learn so many more lessons, and we really have to share those as well. So I can understand that. Now, what was perhaps your favorite part about writing Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life? Did you have a favorite chapter? Did you have a favorite passage? What was that like?
My favorite part was probably the end part of the book, where I just have a lot of different quotes. That was how I ended my book. I've always liked book of quotes. I just think they share a lot of knowledge and information in such a short passage. So the ending part of the book, where I just compile a list of quotes that I actually came up with on my own, that was probably my favorite part of the book, and I think the part that a lot of people will enjoy the most. Yeah.
Now, as far as I'm sorry. Let's pause right there, please. You guys, I can't see the question. Yeah. No. Can you make it bigger? What? No. No. I don't know. I can't see it anymore. Okay. I'm sorry, Ankit, the screen that has the questions, I can't see it anymore. So I'm gonna pause for a few minutes so that there's space so they know to edit that part out. And then I'm just going to ask some questions still about your book. So okay, so here we go. So Ankit, so many times when we're writing, we have a particular demographic or a particular audience or, a particular group of people that we may be writing for. When you were writing, did you have a particular group of people, like I want to target this for young adults only, for older adults, or did you say, I want to write a book that anyone who picks it up is able to get something out of the book?
Right, yeah, and I think a lot of people will tell you when you're writing a book, aim it towards a particular demographic. That's where you'll have the most success. But honestly, I always love writing books that pretty much anyone could pick up and enjoy. Even my children's book, obviously it was maybe geared towards a certain age group, maybe like 7 to 12 years old. But I think even an adult could pick it up and enjoy the book and enjoy what it's about. So I just honestly, the way I write, I hope that anybody could pick up the book and enjoy it and get something out of it. So that's really my goal with writing, is just, hey, write a book that'll have a lot of mass appeal to it.
Now, did you ever think to before you got started, did you go through the question of, do I write this in a pen name or do I write this as myself? Was it ever a question for you?
You know, that is an interesting question, because I remember a teacher talking to me about this, and not me directly, but just how people will change their name to a pen name to either make it sound more unique, or just because I don't know, for whatever reason they don't want to use their real name. But no, not really. I think I have a pretty unique name, so it would stand out on its own. So no, I never really had the idea or thought of using a pen name. But that is an interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really and truly, for each person, I think they have their own personal reason as to why they choose to or not to, and we could probably boil them down into maybe 2 or 3 categories. But it is so interesting. I know 2 people that have written books under a pen name. One was because they didn't want the story that they were telling was such a story filled with drama and just like abuse, and they didn't want to expose the family to all of that. The people calling, go, did John really hit her? That type of thing. So I could understand there. And it was interesting that the other person was a doctor, but they didn't want to write the book as a doctor. They just wanted to be a regular person, so they chose a pen name. So it's quite curious how people choose to write the way that they do. I love that. Now, the other question that I have is dealing with ghostwriting. I know that some people have asked me, would I share a story and have a ghostwriter write it? And I go, I'm not sure. Have you ever considered being a ghostwriter?
Yeah, actually, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that's something I'm already doing. I've actually nothing on a big time scale yet, but that's definitely my goal. I started ghostwriting for a couple of as a freelancer and an independent contractor for a couple of different ebook companies. So basically companies that put out ebooks. A lot of clients want certain topics written about, and they request a ghostwriter to write them. So I've been writing a lot of ebooks on various topics through different ebook writing companies. And then I've actually been doing some ghostwriting for a couple of friends and clients as of late, both books and articles. I'm actually working on a really interesting book that a friend of mine is for a story for a friend of mine. She actually grew up in Haiti, and I don't want to give away too many details, but she grew up in Haiti and had a lot of really traumatic experiences just with herself, and also just a lot of the kids that grew up in that area that she wanted to share and get out there. So that's something I'm working on right now. And I'm always looking for anybody that wants to share their story and don't know how to get it out there. Maybe they don't either have the time, desire, or know how to write a book. I'm always welcoming people to come and talk to me about their stories, and I would love to help them get their stories out there. And my main goal is, hey, if you have an interesting story that you think you'd want to turn into a book, my goal is to help you get it out there, in any way, shape, or form. So I'm definitely I'm enjoying my ghostwriting experience right now, and I'd love to do it much more often.
Absolutely. I can imagine it allows you kind of the freedom to be able to write and just explore and see how far you can go in any particular direction according to what they're looking for. I could see how that would definitely be exciting. Well, Ankit, it is time for us to go to break, so I'm going to ask you again if you could remind everyone, what is the title of your current book, where can we pick up a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Sure, absolutely. So my book is called Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life. Again, available on Amazon.com or available on xlibris.com. That's xlibris.com. Check out my publishing website at alpinelinepublishers.com, and also actually my website at ankitshukla.org. That's ANKITSHUKLA.org, and you can actually be connected to all my social media accounts from there too.
Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can pick up a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative. I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Ankit, and we are talking about his book, Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life. And yes, I love the title of that book. Ankit, I want to ask you now for that person who is thinking, I think I might have a book inside of me, or, they've been prompted by their friends, write the book. For someone who may be right there on the edge, they're trying to decide whether or not they should write the book. Should they write the book? When is the best time? How do you know that now is the time to write the book?
Honestly, just if you feel like you have a lot of ideas in your head and you feel like, hey, I have enough to compile into a book, which isn't a book, doesn't have to be a 200, 300-page novel. I mean, a 100-page book or an 80-page book is perfectly fine. But if you think you have the ideas and want to put them out in a book, go for it. Seek out the help of other authors. If you really don't know how or can't write the book or don't want to take the time or effort it takes to do so, which in essence is not really as hard as people may think. You always have the option of hiring a ghostwriter or a co-author, or just sit down and compile a book and into separate chapters and make each chapter a different story. Just think about don't think about it in terms of a whole book. Think about it in terms of maybe several different essays or articles compiled together, which each chapter is a different article, so to speak. So that can make it a little less daunting, so to speak. And just go from there. If you feel like you have the ideas to put out into a book and you think that people will really benefit from it, hey, even if only you think one person will benefit from it, or if it's something that'll be therapeutic for you, definitely, take the time, sit down and write a book. Even if it's something that maybe no one else will see, maybe it's just a journal, whatever it needs to be, definitely, sit down and take the time to write the book. Like I said, it may not be as hard as you may think. If you're publishing the book, it doesn't have to be like this college thesis style paper. Certainly you want to sound, grammar and spelling are important, but, writing it in your own voice, it gives it its own unique value. And, and like I said, anytime if you feel like you're ready to write a book, definitely go for it.
I love that. Now, for so many people, they need to have a particular environment when it comes time to write. Did you find that you needed it to be, really quiet? Did you want to, go off for 2 weeks and do your writing and just be alone? Yeah. Or was it fine that you had, ambient noise or people in the same room with you?
Yeah, certainly the best practice would be to live in complete isolation. Unfortunately, I didn't have that luxury, but Yeah, I mean, it didn't bother me too much if someone was in the room. I was still able to write pretty well. And, I usually would always have to work full time, so I just kind of had to choose either my days off or if I had a few hours in the evening, getting some writing done. So I would say definitely isolation or solitude would be where I would come up with my best work, but at the same time, it's not something that was completely required by me. And I'd encourage people, even if you can only get a little bit of writing done each day, definitely take the time to do so, whether it's even if it's just like a paragraph, at least it's something.
And it's so funny that you say that, because that was going to be my next question for you, is when you're planning on writing, and I mean like in your head, yes, okay, I'm going to write today, should you I need to write a chapter a day, I need to write a page a day, or I need to write for X amount of time? What did you find worked best for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I had a whole day to write, I certainly would take it. But for me, just any opportunity I got, like if I got off of work early one day and I had a couple hours where I could write and didn't have to do anything else, I would take that opportunity to write. And even if I felt like I didn't have it in me, like maybe I was having writer's block or something, in many instances when I started writing, I would write that couple sentences or paragraph that I thought I would write, and then ultimately ends up turning into 2 paragraphs and then a page and then a few pages. So it's always interesting. Even when I would sit down to write even just a little bit, it would turn out to be a lot. So, I mean, it's just, you never know when, motivation is going to strike. So I would say take whatever opportunities you can to sit down and write, and, you never know what you'll come up with.
Just having that freedom of not restricting yourself, saying, okay, I'm only going to write 1 page. Because if the words are flowing, then don't cut it off. Let it continue to flow. I love that. Now, so many people talk about their version of what success looks like, and I love how you talk about the good life versus the better life. So my question kind of is along that same vein. So many times we think that we have achieved success when it doesn't come to writing, but in the things, like we have the car, we have the house, or we have the 2.3 kids and a dog, whatever success looks like for us. My question is about literary success. What is literary success to you? Like, what does that look like? And then how would one know that they have achieved literary success?
Yeah, I mean, and I would say that's very personal to the individual. I mean, for me, it's someday becoming my ultimate success story will be someday becoming a New York Times bestselling author, but that's just me. But, I feel like I've found some, literary success already. I've just in the fact that I was able to write a book and publish it, which is something, it seems like there's so many books and authors out there, but it still really means something, especially to a lot of people when they realize, hey, you actually wrote a book. So, I mean, just the fact that I've been able to write one and even several, and also parlay that into a freelance writing career of some sorts, I find that to be successful on my part. But I would say, yeah, I'm successful now as an author and a writer, but I'm still going for better. That's always my goal. And ultimately, yeah, when I do reach that New York Times bestselling author status, and that just, to me, that also just means that, hey, a lot of people read, loved, and were inspired by my books, whatever they may be. So that's a major thing to me. It's just the fact that so many people out there are reading something that I wrote and being inspired by it, whether it's just either by learning something or even just for entertainment, whatever it may be. People are out there reading my work, and that's a great thing to me. And the more when I reach that point that, hey, a lot of people read my book, I'm just going to keep writing and writing more and hopefully put out more content out there for people to love and enjoy.
I love that. So my last question for you is, if if there's just a nugget of wisdom that you could give to someone who is an aspiring writer, be it that they are just now opening up that laptop to type that first word, or they have writer's block and they're just not sure, or perhaps even that person that's just not confident enough to finish that project because they're afraid of what comes after publishing. Do you have any bits of wisdom, any bits of knowledge that you can share with them that can encourage them?
Yeah, just just start writing, and even and take it one small accomplishment at a time, and realize that, hey, if you wrote that one page, that's a major accomplishment. If you wrote, when you finish that first chapter, that's a major accomplishment. So set small goals for yourself, and definitely have a big picture in mind, but just focus on small goals at a time, and don't worry about at that moment what other people are going to think about it. What's important is that you look at your piece of work, whatever it may be, whether it's a book or a poem or whatever. And if you're happy and satisfied and love what you wrote, that's good enough at that moment. And then when you put your work out there someday, if you choose to, then it'll inspire and be loved by the right people. But ultimately, there's always going to be critics out there. My suggestion is not worry so much about what other people think. Worry about, are you happy with what you put out there? When you read back your book, are you happy with what you wrote? And, that's the most important thing. And all I can suggest is take every opportunity you can to write. Even if you can only write like one paragraph in a day, that's still good enough. That's that whole Seinfeld trick of, hey, every day that he would write, he would mark it off on his calendar, even if it was just a paragraph or something. And that's kind of the mindset that I have. Every day write something, even if it's just a sentence or a paragraph. And sometimes that sentence or paragraph will turn into a page or a couple of pages. And with writer's block, which is, a great topic to discuss, sometimes with writer's block, sometimes I'll sit down at the computer and try to at least eke out a couple of sentences, and then when I start doing that, something clicks in my mind and I keep going, and I end up writing several pages because out of that, suddenly my writer's block goes away. If I'm at a point where I just can't get past the writer's block for whatever reason, then I step away and try to revisit the book at a later date, or a later time at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. Just step away and come back at a later time, because usually that has cleared itself up. And I think that's like with all of our moods. Sometimes you have to step away and come back to it, and it definitely has been changed. I love it. Well, Ankit, thank you so much for spending time with us today and for sharing your wisdom with our listeners. And I do encourage you to keep writing, but more importantly, when you have something new you want to share, to definitely come back and visit with us and let us know. Thank you again for being on the show. But before you go, if you would remind everyone for the last time, what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Sure, and thanks for having me, Dr. Angela. People can get a copy of my book from exlibris.com. It's called Don't Live the Good Life, Live the Better Life. Exlibris is XLIBRIS.com. Also Amazon. Also my website at ankitshukla.org. That's ANKITSHUKLA.org. And also check out my publisher's website at alpinelinepublishers.com.
Thank you again, Ankit, for being on the show with me today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And listeners, thank you for tuning in as well. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.